This is Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby, and you're listening to the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast. When people start thinking about having babies, they obviously and understandably spend a lot of time and energy thinking about the growing of said baby, sometimes without fully realizing the amount of growth that is possible for them during the pregnancy experience, either personal growth or relational growth. The truth is that the experience of pregnancy is the hero's journey. It transforms you mentally, emotionally, relationally, and learning how to do all that work well and on purpose sets you up for love, happiness, and success when you bring that new baby home. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to use this very special time intentionally and productively so that you have the opportunity to grow while you are growing another human. And I'm so glad you're here for this conversation. For musical inspiration, we're listening to the song Growing Together by a band called Juke, Jook. You can learn more about Juke and their music on their Bandcamp page, juke.bandcamp.com. As I mentioned in my intro, there is such an untapped growth opportunity for most people when it comes to the experience of being pregnant. We often think of pregnancy as just like, the part you want to hop over to the other side of when you get to bring home a baby. And, it can be a physically uncomfortable experience, and sometimes it can be stressful. Like there can be a lot of practical things to figure out during this period. But the very cool thing is that if you learn how to embrace the mental, emotional, relational changes and stressors in a very intentional way, the experience of being pregnant is transformational. Not only are you knitting together another little human, you are being changed forever internally before you even officially become a parent. And figuring out how to do that can really just make things so much easier for you as a parent. It can also, most importantly, just be enormously strengthening for your relationship, because in case you haven't heard, having children creates an enormous amount of stress in a relationship. All couples, when they become parents, there are new problems in a relationship, new stressors, new fractures and cracks that everybody has to deal with. That is inevitable. That is just part of the growth process. It is to be expected. But the more you can do to front load that work and solve some of those things, figure out how to communicate, start working as a team, really amp up that mental and emotional support that you have for each other before it turns into a 3:00 in the morning crisis with crying involved. That is going to be a huge strength and a huge advantage, not just for you, but for your family and ultimately for the children who will be the recipients of this beautiful family experience that you as the parent are responsible for creating. So this is, I believe, an incredibly important topic, and I am thrilled to be having this conversation today with some experts on this. So I have invited a couple of guests. We're going to be talking to D'Anthony and Rachel Ward, who are actively, blogging and speaking on this topic. And not just do they coach and they teach, they have lived it, you guys. They have walked through this journey themselves and done so much enormous growth on themselves and on their relationship as a result of it. So their advice, their wisdom really comes from the heart. So, Rachel and DeAnthony Ward, thank you so much for being here. I'm just thrilled about the work you're doing. You're really educating people about the unique stressors of pregnancy in a way that like normalizes everything, but also really talking about how couples can use this experience in order to make their relationship stronger, their family stronger. And as a marriage and family therapist, I'm so personally grateful for your work because not enough people are talking about this. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Me too. Well, and so to jump right in, so you guys have done so much great work around really trying to help couples navigate this very unique experience of pregnancy. And if it's okay to ask, I mean, we talk about personal things here on this podcast. I'm so curious to know why this particular subject became such a passion area for the two of you.
Yeah, for me, it's more of it's like a lifestyle type of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
get married, you got to work together, and there's no way around it. And then when you have kids, you have to continue to work together. There's no way around it. So we started to see that there's this commonality, like no matter what, we have to work together, right? In pregnancy, I think sometimes it's kind of brushed off as, oh yeah, you're having a kid, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into first off the idea and the privilege of being born is just one thing, and you kind of respecting that process with your partner and being able to experience that with your partner, there's a lot of valuable gems that you can get out of that, and there's a lot of things that go on within that process of the pregnancy process that will just kind of enhance your relationship.
Let me ask you this. I do think that a lot of times, and rightly so, the pregnancy transition and process, it can be very heavily kind of focused on the female's experience. And it is also true that, there can be big feelings coming up for men during this experience. And sometimes big emotions and even ambivalence, fear, all we connect with like our own childhood stuff when we get pushed into the pregnancy experience. And so I'm wondering if you also have any thoughts or advice on how to create some emotional balance, I guess, that support balance for male partners that takes into consideration both people's needs.
So here's the thing: that she runs the show from a standpoint that she's making the baby. Like without her making the baby, there's it doesn't exist. So that's why I do say support partner, because I think that's like I don't want to overlook that. Like I do have my emotions and things, but where you can look at things a little bit differently is how do I view certain situations, or what is your role as the pregnant person? What things can you alleviate kind of from me? Because the big thing a lot of times is, oh, you're not pregnant, you'll never be pregnant. You can't relate. And I think that stems from wanting to just jump into anytime you want to help somebody, you jump into your bag of experiences, right? Oh, well, I used to do that. This is what I did. Or I experienced this. This is what happened to me. And you try to relate on a level that's talking about, what you've experienced. But that's not the case here because I can't experience that. But what I can tell is what it's like to live with somebody for 9 months, right? And to be next to them in bed when their back is hurting, or try to figure out ways to help, because as people we want to be able to help, right? And especially as men, when you look at us, we're very solution driven, very problem solving. So it gets very frustrating when you can't solve the problem, and when you have this group of men that are trying to support their partner and are trying to solve the problems. They just don't know the answer is not necessarily to solve the problem, and looking at the problem solving differently. The answer, how you solve the problem, is just to be there and be supportive to them. So what I would talk to Rachel about is, hey, what things do you think that you can do to kind of help me? And what I mean is, if Rachel doesn't feel like getting up, I'll go get the remote, or maybe I'll go open this, or I'll go get these things. And these are easy things because we're solution driven, but that can get very comfortable. Not to her fault. It's just as a person, you do the same thing over and over for 30 days, she can get very comfortable with me coming up to her with a glass with a straw in it every day.
Holding it up to her lips. I love it.
Anybody can get used to that. And what you can do to kind of help your support partner out is identify those moments where you can actually do for yourself. Like, what are the things where you can actually get up and go? Does it hurt for you to get up, or are you kind of comfortable because your support partner is doing everything that he can to solve your problems, and you can actually do the things yourself? Because that is a nerve wracking thing for us when we can't figure out how to solve the problem. But now you have 9 months of me trying to solve the problems, getting up at every situation, trying to figure out, hey, can we do this? Can I do this for you? Can I do this? And then it doesn't stop at 9 months. You think that's the stopping point. And then when the baby comes, you have a whole nother set of problems. And before you know it, it's been 2 years of you kind of going nonstop. So there's a maturity issue here where you, as being a pregnant person, should look at your situation and say, okay, what are the things that I can honestly do for myself that may relieve him? Because I know he's committed. And I know to do these things, and I know he wants to solve these problems. What are the problems that I can solve myself? And you have to ask that question to yourself from a very mature standpoint, and you got to have that conversation with your partner from a very mature standpoint. If you guys can sit in these couple check-ins as we have in the book, and you can talk about some of these things, I think that you'll come to the conclusion like, hey, I actually can get up a little bit earlier and do this. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't really hurt. I just like it when you do it. Making that differentiation, because in the long run it gives us a little bit more bandwidth, and it allows us to get over that hurdle of, hey, how can we solve problems, how can we fix this? So that's something I think that's a perspective that's not necessarily talked about.
Well, and I think also what I'm kind of hearing between the lines, and I hope that this is okay, is that this pregnancy experience really illuminates the way that all couples kind of give and receive love, like those love languages. And so, to Anthony, and just hearing you talk, and this is a guess, we don't know each other very well, but like you have a love language that's very much around those acts of service, like caretaking and doing things for people and solving the problems. And that's how you're really showing Rachel a lot of that love and support. And then also being that emotionally, calm, supportive person during that pregnancy. But I think I'm also hearing you say that part of the work here would be then for Rachel, and we can apply this to different love languages in all kinds of different situations, but is Rachel, for you to understand that that's how D'Anthony is showing you love and like giving a lot to you, and that does start to get tiring after a while, and that he needs to have some of that burden lifted, in order to create balance. But that's probably unique to your relationship, whereas maybe a different relationship in partners that have kind of different ways of giving and receiving love, there needs to be a lot of conversation around, here's what I feel like I'm doing for you, but it's maybe starting to feel out of balance for me. And so here's what I need for you. And that could be conversation. For some couples, it's like physical intimacy or doing fun things. I know that my husband, he's a talker. He wants to talk about things, which is so funny because people meet him and they're like, he's so quiet. Why doesn't he say anything? But like to have conversations about stuff. And so but that's a really good reminder. And I think the central thing here, D'Anthony, you were saying, like, I want you to ask me how I'm doing and what I need sometimes. And maybe I need you to take on some of this stuff yourself, would have been one of those conversations at your house. But it could look a little bit different, like depending on the dynamics of that relationship. Is that what I'm hearing, right?
Approach is everything. Well, first off, I think I tell Rachel all the time, like, I love it when you like get sick, or because it feels like I get like activated, like, oh, this is like
I know what to do.
like you need me right now. Like, I mean, she's pretty independent anyway. So it's like, oh, you're not feeling well? Got you. Now you put pregnancy, there's like 9 months of that. Oh, I got you. I'm ready to
You're like, I was made for this.
I think that's probably most men are helpers because we're problem solvers. Now, like I said before, the only thing is we try to solve problems that aren't necessarily identified as problems in the right way. Like, supporting your partner is not about getting the right answer. or getting the right shoes. She may never like any of the shoes that you purchased for that may hurt her feet or discomfort, but it's about the acts of doing it. Like solving the problem is emotionally you're getting in her head and letting her know, hey, I may have missed this mark maybe a couple times, but I'm going to keep going and keep trying because I'm committed. I'm committed to the process of you and to the process of us. And that's my whole mindset. And that's the whole perspective of what's in the book. We're problem solvers. Let's figure out the right problem to solve. And when we look at it in that perspective, then I think it'll click for a lot of guys.
Oh, totally. Well, and it's with this fantastic perspective like that, the emotional needs and learning those skills and being able to solve problems on that level. So, okay, so the first trimester is all about like really this, the solid foundation, the attachment bond between two people. How do we create safety and support and make space for each other intentionally? And when that goes well, we get closer together. If we're fighting about how each other feels, we're feeling unsupported, that creates those ruptures and cracks. So that support phase is important. What do you think is different about like the second trimester of a pregnancy? I know in your book, you kind of talked about that as a different phase. So I'm curious to hear like, what are those growth moments that a lot of couples experience, during this transition that are kind of unique to that second phase of pregnancy?
Expectations, your glow, right?
So I think probably more what the conversations are about, right? Change
Mm-hmm.
the second trimester, right? Like I mentioned, the first trimester is really that adjustment phase, right? So it's just getting used to the fact that, okay, we're pregnant, we're bringing in another person. Like it's just getting that foundation prepared. Whereas when you enter the second trimester, okay, foundation is paved. We kind of know what this is. We've been through some sickness or uncomfortableness. We're recognizing that there will be continuous adjustments throughout the phase. We've got that. Now we can actually have conversations, right? So I think the second trimester is really more about being comfortable in having conversations that you may not have had before, or aligning on goals or strategies or morals, or right. It's planning, right? So I think it's the opportunity to have deeper conversations. And that's really what it shifts. It turns more into let's get aligned, right? Trimester one is, okay, let's figure out how we build the foundation, let's get through the adjustment period, right? Figure out how we give each other grace. Phase two, second trimester, right, is now let's get aligned. So let's have some of those deeper conversations so that when we get into third trimester, right, which is really kind of starting to like plan for go time, right? It's more do, right? It's okay, well, we've already aligned on what we want, how we want this to look, what we believe, right? That's the second trimester.
That's awesome. So you're saying that like the first trimester, it's like this primal, like, and especially for a first pregnancy, and we're all like bonding and taking care of everybody and like both sitting on the floor of the bathroom crying, like doing these things. And then the second trimester, everybody's kind of calmed down a little bit, like, okay, this is what we're doing. And then it turns into really deep and meaningful conversations about, almost the future, how we want this to look. What are some of the crucial conversations that you hope every pregnant couple could have during that second trimester related to hopes, dreams, values, family of origin experiences? What kind of parents do we want to be? What are some conversation starters you would advise?
Yeah, well, one of those conversation starters is kind of like how we're bringing somebody into our family. What are our values now? Like, what are the things that we are interested in? And it's actually a good opportunity to get to know like the partner a little bit deeper because, I mean, I don't know if you have conversations like that. I mean, we didn't when we first met.
Very broadly.
Yeah, it was like, oh.
My husband and I fought about it months after our child was born. So to do it ahead of time is much better.
Yeah. So
don't do that.
So we're looking at situations now like, hey, what are some things that are important to you? And it's like, she's like, oh, well, I really want them to, grow up like this, or, Rachel and I come from two completely different backgrounds.
Yeah, most people do.
Rachel was a two-family household. I was a one-parent
Two
household.
parent household.
What did I say?
Two family.
That's cool. Whatever.
It was pretty much two families.
That's another thing. I come from a very large family.
Yeah.
Much smaller.
Smaller. So then when you start to talk about those, you realize like what you kind of want. Like, Rachel grew up doing a lot of activities and stuff. She's like, yeah, I want to make sure they're involved in everything. And, my mom, single parent, she didn't really have the resources to do a lot of those. And I'm like, they can get involved in some stuff if they want, but it's no big deal. And Rachel's like, what do you mean it's no big deal? It develops this, and this. And some things I look back on here and I'm like, whoa, who are you? What is this? So having those conversations at that time, it's very good, not even just for the baby, but for you to understand like this person is that's about to birth out another person. And starting those conversations off like that, I think it's a life hack. And if you're smart, you write those things down, you commit them to your memory, and you try to figure out ways to implement those experiences within your marriage, not just when the baby comes.
And we were pretty intentional about that in the book, in that we give you something right? That's on purpose, because, these shouldn't be just one-time conversations, right? Like, go back and review, like, what did you write down? What did you guys talk about? Do you guys still feel the same, right? It's opportunities to kind of continuously review and grow and just stay aligned.
Oh, I'm so glad you guys are talking about this in your book, because, as a marriage and family therapist, what is routinely true with any couple that's not having a good time in their relationship, so much of it is often connected to these different family of origin experiences, like very different family cultures and backgrounds and norms. And so an intervention that is commonly used is something called a genogram, where we're like mapping out different families and who did what and personalities and what the culture was like in each family. But then talking about, what we want to create in this family that you guys are building together. And I'm so happy that you're addressing this in your book and really like framing pregnancy as the opportunity to be doing this important work, because I think for a lot of couples, just developmentally, before pregnancy and kids start coming into the picture, a relationship is organized around such different things. It's what do we do for fun and our careers, that we like each other, and like we're, going on vacations, and like you don't really need to talk about a lot of this other stuff. But then in that second trimester, talking about, these hopes and dreams and expectations, and every couple has oftentimes big differences in family structure, socioeconomic kinds of perspectives. Like my family culture was very different from my husband's. And you don't even realize that these are going to be potential problems and that there are going to be clashes. It's usually around children and parenting, or money is where these things will come up in a relationship.
Well, I want to get into this, the financial piece of things.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that, because that also gets really real for couples during this
it
experience as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And the advice that we just kind of offer in the book, I mean, everybody is at different financial levels. Things are different. So we try to get you to get on the same page. Hey, what are we comfortable with spending money on? Do we have the money to get like an au pair? Or do we have money for daycare? Like all of these, let's go down the list of the expenses for this baby. We need to get on the same page there. Maybe we need a budget. Maybe we need to cut out some different things. Maybe these things happen. And around trimester 2, right? Second trimester.
It's definitely a second trimester discussion. You don't want to wait till third trimester, because if you need to put changes or plans in place, you need to start them early, right? So this is, again, one of those deep conversations that should be happening during the second trimester to get aligned. Finances is definitely an important alignment conversation for a second trimester.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm just sitting here with you guys, and I apologize for this. I try not to do this when I'm sitting with people, when I'm not actually being a couples counselor, but I'm just sitting here thinking about, first of all, how just cute you guys both are, but also like what a beautiful relationship you have. No, seriously, because like even just the way that you're describing your process, and it's so matter of fact, we got out a whiteboard and like, did the math and had the conversations about what we're going to do. So many couples, like, I mean, really struggle to have those kinds of conversations without it getting so fraught. Do you know what I mean? And Rachel, like you use this word alignment, and I'm just sitting here thinking about how all of this very intentional work that you guys obviously have been doing like in that first trimester phase of your pregnancy set you up for so much success. Like there's just so much trust and goodwill in the way that you're talking about even having these conversations. Like you're aligned as a team. We have this thing coming up. How are we going to solve this problem? But it's like, there's so much unity. And I love that. And even just, I mean, you guys talking about your own process is setting such a beautiful example, I think, for couples who oftentimes have so much tension and like emotional stuff that comes up around money. People feel criticized, they feel misunderstood, they feel judged. And I'm so glad that you're addressing this. And it's beautiful what you guys are doing here. Truly. You're an inspiration.
And that's where those classes come in at, because I mean, money is it can be an insecure topic.
Yep.
And you want to create a safe space for your partner. So, you don't want to belittle your partner. You don't want to be like, well, you only make this much. I mean, when I talk, even in every situation, I always say we. I don't care if I'm doing 100% of work, 80% of work. I'm going to say we just because I just want it in the head. This is going to be we. This is going to be we. Even if Rachel is doing 90% of the work. Like,
it makes such a difference.
Rachel does do 90% of the work on like 60% of our time. But being able to have that safe space to say, hey, this is what I think that we should do, or this is what I'm going to try. We try to do these things for, we just, try not to be like attacking. Like, you need to make it, or you need to do this. It's always going to be we got to figure this out. What should we do? Let's circle this, highlight it. And I think if you approach that from a very mature standpoint and you're very intentional and very committed, if you just operate under that umbrella of just being committed, I think the stuff that we're talking about just kind of makes sense, and it just kind of naturally flows.
That is awesome. If you're holding that in your head, everything is easier. All right. So moving into the third trimester experience, what would you guys say are those crucial conversations or growth moments that couples can have with each other in this leg of the journey, so to speak?
So third trimester is, that's really, I would say that's the doing trimester, right? So it's more tactical,
execution,
right? Whereas, trimester 2 is strategy, right? Yes. The third trimester, it's all about tactical. It's, okay, are we physically ready at this point? And what do we need to do to get physically ready, right? Because the second trimester should have, prepared you. So first and second trimester should have prepared you more kind of emotionally, mentally, like you should be good, or at least have that foundation. The third trimester is like physically what needs to happen, right? Do we have a room? Where is the baby going to sleep, right? Do we have clothes, right? Are we throwing a baby shower? It starts to move very much into the doing phase, which I think is really important. And it kind of shifts in terms of also, at the third trimester, the pregnant person is also going to be heavier and may be able to do less. So again, now we have a little bit of physical imbalance too, right? Whereas, maybe I had more energy in the second trimester, or I could do more right now. Third trimester, I'm waddling around.
Now you really need me more this semester.
I can't reach my shoes or tie them, right? So it's definitely more physical in the third trimester.
And now you need more now in this trimester than you did first one physically. So back to those deposits that we were talking about. What if you read this book from the very beginning, and you were like, okay, what things can I do by myself? And let's say you just kind of were very independent in your first trimester, and your support partner was okay with you doing the things that you're doing, and he has this level of energy, and he thinks that he's solving a problem because he's giving you what you need. You're performing like you need, and then the third trimester comes on, and it just physically hits you that things are just like much different now. How do you think that that makes me operate now? Like, hey, you've been doing very well these last couple of trimesters, and now this one, you absolutely need me, and now I can associate that need with the physical. Like, you physically are waddling, you physically can't do something, and now I'm able to tap into that. And now it's go time, as we say in the book. It's game time. So keeping that in mind and using these tactics and strategies that we have in the book, I think it definitely helps you just close the communication gap for your relationship.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, how many great opportunities to really be having almost tactical conversations around who's doing what in terms of, division of labor, shared responsibilities versus this is what I'm in charge of. And that there's, D'Anthony, you're talking about like, and I think it was probably different for you specifically just because of it seems like your value system and the kind of person that you are, that you were oriented towards doing things and taking care of people and solving problems, anyway, but it kind of like solidified that maybe. But I'm also thinking that in other relationships, it sounds like this was not the case in yours. And unfortunately, in many, I think there's still this socialization gap between like men and women, where women are doing a lot of the labor, the housework, the emotional labor of things, like taking care of all this stuff. And to get to a place in pregnancy where they literally cannot do a lot of the things that they usually did before, that turns into a real growth moment for a couple where men are really kind of challenged to step up and perhaps start doing some of the things that they didn't before. Not so much in your relationship, but this is the transformational process. In that third is like this transferring of some responsibility, the day-to-day doing of the things that is going to be absolutely necessary once there is an actual baby in the picture. And so it's like this practice run. We're having a scrimmage, like getting ready for it. Is that how you would describe this stage?
I think that's actually perfect. And I would say even before the baby actually gets here, because one of the, I would say, most important parts of the third trimester that we discuss in our book is birth plans and advocacy, right?
Ah,
So
mm-hmm.
delivery, right? So before the child is here and now you're taking care of them, right? And there may be this imbalance of who needs to do what. When you're in the delivery room, it's a massive imbalance, right? Depending on what my condition is, I may not even be able to speak for myself. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
God, right? But there may be an instance where you have your partner, your support partner has 100% of the responsibility and the ownership of making sure that that delivery goes well, right? That they're be able to advocate on your behalf, that they're able to follow out the birth plan that you all discussed, aligned on, and agreed on, right? If, for whatever reason, the pregnant person cannot, right? So I would say that's like the first piece that you're really preparing for, right? That scrimmage is for the time of the delivery first, right? Then the parenting part, right? But that birth and that advocacy is just so highly important that we really can't stress enough in terms of the support partner's role, right?
Yep.
In that is extremely vital.
Yes, and I talk about ownership a lot in the book. And I think like commitment and ownership, those kind of go together. And this is my experience, and this is the experience that I'm gonna have. And then when you get into a situation like in a labor room, I'm making sure more so with my second child than Aaliyah, because I got a lot more educated. Now I'm making sure everything is going well. I'm asking 1,000 questions. And I'm saying, hey, what is that person doing in here? What is that person's role? Well, we said we were going to do the shot. What kind of shot is that? Blah blah blah. Because I want to show ownership, and I'm showing these things. This goes back to like the emo deposits. Like this isn't new. This isn't coming out of anywhere. During the doctor's appointments, I'm saying, hey, this is what I think. Even if I don't necessarily know everything at the moment, I'm just asking the silly questions or asking the things that make her comfortable, make her know that, hey, I'm in charge of this. I'm owning this entire process. So when we get into that the game time, the labor room, and her emotions get super high or something like goes wrong, the one thing hopefully that she's not worried about is like who's backing me, like who's riding for me here. Like that's what those deposits come into. Like when it's really time, I'm going to show up and I'm going to make sure that everything, to the best of my ability, I'm going to make sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible. So that's like the home run for that trimester there.
Well, and you're saying that taking that ownership, going to the appointments, making sure that you kind of understand what's going on every step of the way, but then going into labor. And I feel like this, we should talk about this. I mean, the childbirth experience, even, it goes fine most of the time. And it can be a life or death experience.
Yeah, it is.
You're a Black couple. We also know that for Black women, the mortality rates in pregnancy and regrettable things that can happen during the birth experience can be different. And there is this real need for protection, for advocacy, because of these systemic issues that create risks that are very real. Is that part of what we're talking about here?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We talk about it. We have a whole section on advocacy. We have an organization that we work with sometimes that is specifically about Black maternal health, right? So that's absolutely what we're talking about here, right? Us obviously being a Black couple that's very close, to what we do and what's important for us. But just advocating in general is important because, like he mentioned, right, when I'm in the room, right, I'm stressed about all the things happening, right? Am I pushing hard enough? Does the contraction hurt? Like the thing I don't want to be stressing about is he making sure like I'm good outside of, what I'm doing physically? That will help keep my stress down, right? And stress sometimes can also cause complications, right? As a part of the delivery. So we just want to try to remove as many barriers as possible, right? But also be as educated as possible about what's going on in that room, what should happen in that room, so he can speak up. He knows when to speak up if something doesn't look right, if something doesn't feel right. If I say I don't feel right and someone else brushes it off, I know that he's not going to let that go, even though someone else that's supposed to be, caring for me may.
Mm-hmm. Look at this perspective here. So, I've been on this journey for 9 months with you, and I've gradually, we've had a conversation, and you told me the things that you can kind of do for yourself and the things that I can help with. First trimester, I'm helping where I can, and we're talking and we're coaching through. Second trimester, I'm being a little bit more involved, having a little bit more ownership, and I'm making these deposits and letting you know, hey, I know what's going on. This is how I'm going to act. This is how I act when stress is high or when all these situations are going on. And then the third trimester, when it's actually time for delivery, like nothing is new. We've scaled now from 1, 2 to 3. Now, in a situation where, let's say, you didn't have this book or this the perspective that we offer here, and you did none of these things, and then it came time for delivery, and now you're, hey, what is this? What does that mean? What does that mean? Now that looks like panic. Now it doesn't look like you're in control. And what you're naturally wanting to do, you naturally want to be like, okay, hey, I'm angry. I want to make sure everything is going right, and that is likely the truth. But how it's coming across to your partner is likely panic, like just, throwing your hands up, just kind of outrageousness. But if you're setting that stage from the very beginning, this is how I'm going to act, this is how I do things, this is how I take ownership, it relieves their mind or her mind just 100%. And that's what we're striving towards. All of these practices, all of these things, when you get into these very high stress situations, you can rely on those emotional deposits that you've been making for 9 months. Think of how long it takes to make a habit. You keep doing the same things over and over and over again. You create this habit of it. There's no way that when you get into this game time decision that your partner isn't going to be relying on you and she isn't going to know that you're there because you've invested all the time for 9 months. So there's no way that cannot happen. And that's what I like to. That's what I like to stress. That's why I stress these emotional deposits because that's the highlight of the book, in my opinion. And when you're reading that portion of it, that's the portion that you should probably take along with keeping the commitment, like being committed, making the emotional, physical deposits, because those are the things that just last for a very long time.
Oh, yeah. And just creating this level of unity. You guys are amazing, but creating this level of unity, through all this work all the way along. And then going into the birth situation as a unit. And it's like each of you have roles and responsibilities. I think that so much of the time we conceptualize this as like it's the pregnant lady show and like it's all about her and her problem and she's having a baby and this guy is kind of like dangling over here like some weird appendage, like what do I do with my hands, like that kind of thing. No, seriously. But you're saying to Anthony, like really going into this with so much intention and like with a very real intention of me showing up and being an active, engaged part of this process is I'm taking ownership of that, but also she needs me, like my advocacy and me being here to like monitor things and going into a potentially very unsafe situation could save her life. And that just awareness, I think, is fundamentally true for every couple, but I don't think that people often think of it in the way that you're talking about today, and they should be. We're going to outsource that to a doula as opposed to like my partner, and not the doulas aren't great. We could do that too, but like the doula doesn't love you.
Yeah, there's these different situations. I mean, you do have a strong advocacy when it comes to like your partner. It is your partner, so who's going to be there more than your partner? And that's you just got to continue to make those deposits so you can get ready for that third trimester game time.
Okay. Well, I could talk to you guys all day. You guys are great. And I know I've had you here for a while. Can we talk very briefly about the growth experiences that are available to us in our marriages, our relationships in that newborn stage, and your final words of advice, and then I'll let you go. With regret.
That's straight, just like tactical, like teamwork, like literally, like throwing the bottle over here, you catching it. I have a bourbon towel over here. I'm gonna run over here and grab this and clean this out real fast. You're doing it. Like, that's just straight, just teamwork, like a sport. Like we had how do we do our when you were sleeping, like you would wake up?
Oh, yes. So especially, in that, so I ended up having 2 C-sections. So a C-section for both.
Me too.
And so, especially in that first week, right, when you're healing, right, the whole just up and down, up and down, up and down. It's just, it's difficult and you're not supposed to do it, right, that often. So we came up with this strategy that, for nighttime feedings, right, well, most feedings, right, it was, okay, if the baby wakes up, he goes, gets the baby, changes the diaper, wraps him back up, brings him to me. I'll feed him, right? Burp him. He'll take him back, re-swaddle him, get him back down and lay him back down, right? So that was kind of our thing, for the newborn stage for both babies. And, you get minimal sleep anyways, but look, an extra 30 seconds, I will take it. You know what I mean? Like, 2 second counts, right?
Figuring out what that is. I mean, it is kind of fun when you're really like connecting and trying to figure like all of this stuff out. And it's like, okay, baby's up. I'll go get her. I'll go get him. Put the baby together. Rachel's sleeping, and like she said, those 5 minutes is like crucial. And I can't wait till I get this baby wrapped up. Give him to Rachel. Rachel feed for 15 minutes. I get 15 minutes of sleep. I grab the baby. Like, it's just figuring out like what works, and that's the fun part. Like, okay, I'm more of a morning person. Rachel, no.
But but I mean, part of that scenario, people think of it very tactically in like, it's helping me get a couple extra minutes of sleep. But also the missed part, a lot of times that support partners may or may not express is just the bonding time, right? There's so much bonding time with the mother, especially if you're breastfeeding, right? That also gives him extra bonding time. If now he's putting him back to sleep, right? That's their bonding time versus if I had put him back to sleep, right? So it's really kind of looking at every scenario as an opportunity, not only to support each other, right? Continue to support each other, but it's also how do each of us support the newborn and also build a relationship with that newborn that's not always, one-sided.
Yeah, we gotta try to find like what works, and like I said, that's the fun part. Like, I like to do this. How about we play to my strengths? What do you like to do? How about we play to your strengths? And if you do that, then that's how you like get that cohesion, and you're able to do things like together, and it's flawless, and it doesn't seem like it's a burden because you're playing to like the strengths of stuff. Like I said, I wake up early. I'm okay with that. Rachel likes to go to bed a little bit later. I like to go to bed a little bit earlier. It's like that part works out, and then the very beginning stages, I mean, it's all about the baby and the mom, and like they need each other. So now it's about how can I like get mine in too? Again, go back to like that ownership. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll just hold the baby here. I'm okay if the baby cries for a little while because we know exactly why they're crying, because they want their mama, they want some milk. So it doesn't deter me from holding the baby just because the baby is crying, because that's what babies do. Like
Yeah.
babies do.
But you're saying, because this is the fun part. It's just, doing the things and working as a team and each plot. So, but the thing that's coming up for me as you guys are talking is that many couples have a very different experience of this stage than the one that you're describing, because what you guys did was very deliberately do the work that allowed you to have this beautiful experience together when your baby was born. D'Anthony, because you had been emotionally attuned and responsive and doing the things, you built up so much trust with Rachel that, with a lot of new moms, there can be a lot of resistance to allowing their partner to take the baby and go do the things because they don't trust them with the baby, because they haven't had great experiences themselves with their partner in terms of emotional attunement, being responsive. And I'm going to hand this vulnerable baby that's crying to you and expect that you're going to be emotionally responsive and nurturing to this infant when I didn't experience that with you from 9 months. That is very real.
You did. You won. You won.
Yeah, totally. There can be so many things. Like if couples aren't doing the work leading up to this, now we have a baby in the house and the woman is up and doing the things. And again, and I don't want to over genderize this, but and the guy is still sitting in his little video game chair playing Fortnite for 4 hours, or the baby is screaming, and like somebody else's problem is that, very male gendered mentality.
That's because guys don't know. They don't necessarily know they don't know what the role is, right?
Yeah.
And it's not at fault to them because like I said, we're the problem solvers, right? So if there is an alternate universe where Rachel will be like, "Hey, I'm just gonna take the baby. I just know I just got it," and then me being like, "That's what you want? Okay, you can do that. I'll support you in that." But so what I want to get across to the guys is like, you can create ownership over this. Like, okay, yeah, you'll take the baby for a little while. I'll just take him. Yeah, I'll just take him here. You get that early, and you just get those reps in, and then that's how you build up that trust. And when the baby is screaming, crying, she can go get her nails done or go out to eat or whatever the case may be without feeling that level of anxiety, because I created the ownership. I created a new problem for me to solve. And that problem is I need Rachel to be able to trust me in all situations. How do I do that? Maybe I should start, taking a baby every second that I can get. And that builds that. And that's the new problem that I'm having to solve, not trying to appease her and get her to be just, comfortable like that. I'm trying to get a way for her to understand, hey, this is what I want. This is where I am.
But I think to your point, I mean, that's the whole premise of the book, right? The premise is you're using the entire pregnancy journey to build those foundations, build those tools, right? Build that goodwill that when the baby gets here, it's just second nature, right? I mean, the newborn, the newborn stage in the book is one chapter, right? We can write several books on the newborn stage, right? But that's on purpose because the purpose of the book is to focus on the pregnancy journey so that when you hit the newborn stage, it's just second nature. Like you're not even thinking now, you're just doing, right? Because you've spent these 9 months preparing, emotionally, mentally, physically, aligning on your morals, your values, doing the practice of, you're at 70, I'm at 30, we're 50-50, it's 100-0, right? Going through those ebb and flows. Like you've got all that down. And now it's just, oh, we've done this. We do this. This is just another day of us doing all the things that we've been building over these last 9 months.
I will say it's fun for me. Now, I'm not going to say it's probably fun for everybody. I know Rachel, it was still an adjustment period, but it's still fun for me. I'm like, oh, let's do this. I'll do this. You do that. But that's probably my weird optimistic personality.
That's awesome. Okay. Okay, 2 last questions, and I'll let you go. Any last words of advice for a couple or, a person who is now in the newborn stage and who did not get any of these memos until after the baby showed up, and now it is a official crap show. They just walked off the edge of a cliff. It is totally out of balance. Trust has been broken. She's ready to go move back in with her parents so somebody can help her with the baby. The guy's feeling totally overwhelmed and has no idea what to do, doesn't even know why people are mad at him. Any advice for people in this situation?
I mean, honestly, it starts with a discussion. Like, you all both need to come to the table open and willing, right? It's got to be open and willing, right? So that is to hear and to try to understand each perspective without being judgmental. Like it's got to start a real conversation, right? That's the basis of all of this. It's the foundation of being able to have real conversations. And that is something that takes practice, right? So the first conversation will be tough.
Probably bad. Probably really bad.
And I will just interject just to listeners, like if you literally cannot have that conversation without it turning into, somebody shutting down or it's getting elevated, please come to a marriage counselor at that moment, because that is what we do, is hold that door open and help you have those productive conversations. If you can't talk, you can't move this. So, sorry, I just wanted to say that, but continue. So that conversation is crucial.
Yeah. And I like to start things off like, hey, I know this is different, and acknowledge the differences and things. Say, hey, this is new to me. It's new to you. Let's just try to figure it out like together. And then I go back because the concept is the same. If you just agree on being committed to the process for each other and want each other's well-being to be good, then I think that it's only up from there. First conversation, it's going to be a little rough. Second conversation, maybe a little less rough, maybe even be a little bit more rough. But the more conversations you have, the easier it gets because you start to understand the person that you're talking to. And it's like when I met Rachel, I was 100% like myself. I said, hey, this is what you're going to get. All right. So you can either kind of take it or leave it. So being upfront faster and kind of knowing the things that you kind of want to say and knowing that faster will help, simply because it sets the stage for a very long time. I told Rachel, I said, hey, I'm going to be just like this. This is it. And I think couples that do that start those conversations off and have those tough conversations, and you can only get to know each other a little bit better and make very small tweaks as you keep going in the relationship. It just helps you close that communication gap a little bit.
I honestly think the biggest thing, and this is not just in pregnancy, but in marriages, you're not committing to this person that you met today, right? You are committing to being with the evolution of this person. Because every phase, every scenario, every change in life causes changes to people, right? and you will continuously evolve and change as a person. I think you said it earlier, when you become pregnant, you become a parent, you're a totally different person than you were before. You're never the same, right? And I think partners have to accept that, my partner will go through changes, will become a different person at some points, or things may change than what I'm used to. And I have to be committed to learning those changes, accepting those changes, and also knowing that I may go through changes. And then that means that he will do the same for me. So for me, it's about accepting the fact that this is an evolution and not a stagnant point in time.
Such great advice. What an amazing conversation. And I'm so appreciative of your work because, this is truly transformational work that you guys are doing. It will change not just lives, but families. I think because of your work, children will be born into marriages and families that are stable and emotionally safe and solid and supportive, with two people who love each other, and who have this like emotional maturity and this ability to provide a really nice life for a child, as opposed to, people who don't have the access to the information and the perspective that you're providing struggle and really sometimes don't know why, they don't know how to fix it. And it results in broken marriages and broken families to the detriment of the children that they bring into the world. And so I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing. The legacy will extend for generations beyond ours. So
thank you. Thank you very much for having us on today.
Yes,
thank you.
This was great.
Oh, it was a true pleasure. So tell our listeners where they can learn more about you and your work and get your book.
Well, we do share a lot of our life and our family on social media. So if you go to Instagram, dad_vlog, we have an awesome community of people there have the same perspective that I kind of have. I share a lot of that. I share my experiences with each one of the members of the family here that I've created, my relationship with Rachel, Taj, and Aaliyah, and they're all very dynamic. And I do that on purpose so you can kind of see that everything is kind of up and down. The Dad Vlog on YouTube. And Dad Vlog on TikTok. We don't do any dances on TikTok, but we are there. We have created this company called Create Dope Humans, and it's a clothing line, and it's geared towards making sure that you give everything that you have to the people that are around you in order to make them better, doper, we say. So when you create dope humans, you just die empty, and you give everything that you have. We have a clothing line that represents that. And that's createdopehumans.com and Create Dope Humans on Instagram.
And then our book, of course, that we kind of talked throughout the interview about is The Couple's Pregnancy Guide, which is, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, basically everywhere books are sold, you can find it.
Okay, that's awesome. So your book and then social media, and I'm going to come hang out with you guys on social media. I'm trying to get into the social media pool, and I'm extremely awkward. But I'm going to find you on social media, and yeah. I'm like a card-carrying Gen Xer. I don't want to do any of that stuff. Well, it's so good talking with you guys today, and keep in touch with me. Let me know what else you guys have coming down the pipeline, and we'll talk about it on another episode sometime.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You guys, weren't Rachel and D'Anthony just like the cutest couple ever? Oh my gosh, I had the best time talking to them. They're so good. I hope you check out their stuff. Follow them on social media. I know I will be. And also, if this was helpful for you, I have so many other resources to support your growth too. As new parents, new family, come over to growingself.com. We have a whole growing together section of the blog that has tons of content to support your growth as parents, as partners. So come to growingself.com, go to the Love collection, and from there navigate into the Growing Together collection. And you'll also find Growing a Family as like another sub collection that has lots of articles just about the trials, tribulations, and growth opportunities of navigating, pregnancy, fertility, but also some of the challenges that come with parenting, particularly relationally, how to get on the same page, how to communicate, how to have an emotionally safe family for each other and for your kids, how to raise emotionally healthy kids, lots of good stuff. It's all there for you. So come and check it out. And of course, if listening to this has made you think, you know what, we could use some support for our growth as a couple as we go through this, even just being pregnant together has revealed, the growth opportunities, and it has been difficult to do this work on your own. Do not hesitate. Come on over, growingself.com. You can schedule a free consultation to speak with a relationship coach or a marriage counselor and my team to talk about your hopes and goals and how we may be able to support you in achieving them. So it is all there for you. And I will be back in touch again next week with another episode of the podcast. In the meantime, here is more Juke with the song Growing Together. Such a lovely concept to meditate on. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, bye.